My short piece is called Soul in Sand. There is a desert above the valley, where smooth, slick rock and sandstone are the only evidence of rain. Bird's beak, black brush, and barrel cactus. Alcove dwellings tell stories of old. Stone walls cemented with mud, corn cobs in corners, spiraled kiva to sipapu spirit, seeping stones in the shade, iron oxide fingerprints. Hands above head, palms on rock, tears in eyes, rise and set the soul in sand. And my long piece is called The Tortoise and the Hare. Donna Teasdale of San Diego Backcountry Energy stands in front of the local California Sierra Club members. Quote, "People call me a NIMBY, not in my backyard. But that's okay. I love my backyard. I love the desert." End quote. The group likely rioted in the Berkeley streets of the 60s. They applaud her bravery and her boldness. Donna has the lovely face of a devoted grandmother and looks as if she'd never heard a fly. That is until somebody mentions large-scale solar projects. Such projects threaten to scrape the ground of her sacred Mojave Desert into a flat and industrialized place. The group's pawn in this strategic game of climate change is the desert tortoise, a threatened species on the endangered species list. Many concentrated solar projects, like the one just approved in Ivanpah, Nevada, will bulldoze habitat of the desert tortoise and, in Donna's eyes, turn the desert into a barren wasteland. The desert tortoise advocates have a lot in common with the very reptile they are desperately trying to save. Nearly all of the Sierra Club members at this meeting are wrinkled from full desert lives. They move slowly in their later years, but beyond the velocity of their feet, the progress towards a renewable energy future is also tortoise-paced. A 1-hour section of the meeting takes 3, as every comment that is made ignites a fiery reaction of overly deliberative nonsense. They dream of a world with decentralized power, with photovoltaic panels on the rooftops of every home in California and then the country. They hope we can follow in Germany's footsteps. As a result of a feed-in tariff program, which allows people to sell the excess solar power they produce back to the grid, the country will have installed 9,000 megawatts of rooftop solar by 2011. In order to keep the land in open space, the tortoise environmentalists fight for a similar program to be implemented into our own government. However, this is a daunting task in a culture so heavily influenced by big electric utility. 500 miles to the west, in the state of Colorado, Auden Schendler, the Vice President of Sustainability at the Aspen Ski Company, stands over 6 feet tall and commands attention when he speaks to a crowd. Quote, "In the desert, in California, they are proposing a huge solar farm, and we're going to potentially endanger a tortoise to put in the transmission lines. So the environmentalists are opposing the solution to climate change." End quote. The way he crouches on the chair in front of me reminds me of a hare. His long hind legs are up against his chest, and the only thing actually touching the chair are his size 13 shoes. Quote, "Now, I'm being an ass here, but that tortoise can go extinct for all I care, because it's going away anyway if we don't solve climate change." End quote. In Auden's eyes, humanity has already failed. Climate change is going to happen. In fact, it is happening, and there's no time to dawdle. Think big and think fast, because there is no more time, is his hare environmentalist philosophy. At this point, we need to brace for impact. He looks me in the eye and asks a metaphorical question. Do you want to be in a 10-mile-per-hour car crash or a 50-mile-per-hour car crash? Because you're going to be in a car crash. Let's do 10. Auden dreams of a Mojave with 1,000-acre solar fields, offshore wind facilities near the coast of Massachusetts, and wind farms blanketing the agricultural lands of the Midwest. Auden snaps his fingers and makes a decision because time is a luxury we do not have. When it comes to individual species and habitats, Auden thinks of the big picture. Quote, "We have to make these decisions that are unconventional. We may have to sacrifice the tortoise." End quote. Sitting between the tortoise and the hare environmentalists, I am brought back to my childhood. At night, surrounded by books and Beanie Babies, my mother would read me fairy tales and fables. One story I'll never forget: the tortoise and the hare. Although I heard the tale hundreds of times, it always made me nervous when hare passed tortoise. I would cross my fingers so tight that by the end my hands ached. Once tortoise had crossed the finish line, while hare lay napping under the maple tree, I cheered for the character of fiction as if he were someone I knew. I could exhale. Tortoise never gave up, and in the end his struggle paid off. Perhaps if hare had not been so arrogant, he could have learned something from his shelled friend. The tortoise environmentalists have a long race ahead of them, but the prize is one worth fighting for. If deliberate decisions are made, renewable solar energy can be done in ways that don't destroy the desert. If tortoise remains persistent, there's a chance he can win this race.